Who doesn't like to plan their choice of spot on the bus? I always go for the back seat. But bus rides aren't always as pleasurable, as the Freedom Riders are going to find out during the Civil Rights Movement. 1961. The Freedom Rides. To test a Supreme Court decision that said that interstate transportation facilities could not be segregated, CORE, the Congress for Racial Equality, planned the Freedom Rides. The Freedom Riders would travel on buses that traveled across the state boundaries. The riders would be placed throughout the bus, and at least one pair would be interracial and would sit together, thus making sure integration on the bus would happen. Other members would sit in their segregated sections. The Freedom Rides began in Washington, D.C. and moved into the Deep South. Freedom Riders faced taunts and periodic attacks, but none was worse than in Anniston, Alabama. In Anniston, things turned violent. A mob met and followed the bus. They firebombed the bus, and members of the mob brutally beat the Freedom Riders. The beatings and bombings of the Freedom Riders made the front pages and drew attention to the cause. Freedom Riders continued to face violence from mobs in Alabama, in Birmingham, and Montgomery. Local police did nothing to intervene and protect the protesters. Attorney General Robert Kennedy sent in federal marshals to protect the riders. When the rides continued in Mississippi, the riders were arrested for trespassing and sentenced to 30 days in jail. Later, these arrests would be overturned. The Freedom Rides ended when the Interstate Commerce Commission ordered interstate terminals to be integrated. Another success was had for the Civil Rights Movement against segregation. Attention would now turn to Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, where segregation protests would be done by children, and Bull O'Connor would send dogs and hoses after them, and these images would be seen by all of America. 1963, the March on Washington. Building public pressure from the Civil Rights Movement and from the American public caused President Kennedy to back a civil rights bill publicly and urge Congress to draft one. To show support for the Civil Rights Bill, the March on Washington was planned. 250,000 people met in Washington, D.C. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous speech, "I Have a Dream." He explained the hopes pinned to the future for future generations. "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, by the content of their character." His speech was relatable, and many remembered it.